I've been working on this for actually a really long time now because I got this in the fall of last year, and by the time I had started refinishing it, I had read about this stuff, Citrusstrip, and I wanted to take off the finish without sanding. But by the time I tried to use it in the fall, the temperatures were already low enough to where it wasn't scraping. So I've had this, it's April now of year 2021. I've had this sucker since fall of 2020. It's been sitting in the garage, and now the weather's nice, so I'm finally able to do it. So I've gone ahead and de-varnished this cabinet and sanded it, removed the finish. So now it's ready for staining. I found a recipe on the internet, and it is a stain that you can make at home. It's made with white vinegar and ultra-fine steel wool. And essentially what you're doing is dissolving the steel wool in the vinegar to make the stain. And I started this in the fall of last year before I realized it was too cool in the garage to use the Citrusstrip. So I've been aging this in my kitchen for about 9 months now, so it's nice and dark. I think that the chemical reaction was complete after about a week, so you don't need to wait as long as I did. And to test it out, I had tried, I took this whittling class and I whittled this funny cat, and I tried the solution on this and it did darken it. This was a really pale wood color, like this paintbrush, and now it's this darker color. So I anticipate we're gonna get a color similar to this, which would go really well with this 50s Kenmore that I have, which is kind of a brown, dark gray, dark color too. And I think those will look really nice together. So I'll go ahead and get started and show you what it looks like when we first put it on, and then once we're done, we'll come and look at it again after a few hours and see how much it's changed. Okay, so I am going to put this in another container because it seems like it'd be easier to use, probably in a bowl, but I already dirtied this cup, so I'm just gonna use the cup. Put it in a different container because then I won't have to carry this jug around. And we can go ahead and get started. So it looks like this. It's a stain. You can use one of these brushes, a chip brush, or you can use one of those foamy brushes, what's something you would use with a normal stain. So here we go. I'll just apply it, wet the wood, and do the same all the way across. I can smell the iron in it. It's a very, I guess it smells like blood. Oh, that's funny. This is kind of a vampire DIY, isn't it? This definitely smells very metallic. So I'm just gonna go ahead and do this all the way across with our entire sewing cabinet. I'll do some time lapse and catch up with you guys soon. Okay, so now I've stained the outside of this cabinet, and I noticed that some parts didn't stain as evenly. You can kind of see where it's lighter in some places. When I brushed the stain on it, it didn't really change that much. So we'll see how it looks at the end. Places like this, I think there's still residual Citrusstrip. It's kind of disappointing that that stuff is so hard to get off after you put it on. So this is the result of Citrusstrip, then sanding. And now this is our first layer of the vinegar iron solution that we made. And it definitely looks darker. Let's see. The texture was really nice to put on because it was very, very thin. So it gets in all the nooks and crannies, and you don't have to really worry about the coverage issue other than places where the wood just didn't get clean enough of the varnish. So I'll let this sit for a little while and let it air dry and see what it looks like. And then we can add or make changes to it. So we're finally done with staining the sewing cabinet. I definitely learned a ton doing it. When I was putting the vinegar and iron solution on, I used about this much liquid, and right now we're down to about this much. So I'd say that this whole project took about 10 ounces of the vinegar iron mix. I also wanted to determine whether adding layers would darken the cabinet much or whether it was redundant. So I tried it on our piece of test wood, and it appears that if you put 2 coats on, any more than 1 coat, you get a slightly darker finish, but it doesn't appear to do much more than that. So if you put 20 layers on, I don't think you'd get much more than if you put 1 or 2. And I'll show you the results of our cabinet. Here it is, our haunted sewing cabinet. This is our cabinet now after sanding, staining, and stripping. So here's some more of the details. The drawers were really hard to do because they're grooved and there's still residue in there. You need to sand out, take care of it later. And there's one part of this project here. I did not sand it all the way, it looks like. So this is part of the original varnish, but without the gloss coat. So this didn't take the stain, and so this is what it looked like before. And this is our darker color now. Okay, so what did we learn? If you use Citrusstrip, use it in warm weather and don't let it sit on your furniture for a year and then try to scrape it off. You will have better luck that way. Also, maybe just sand it. I don't know. The reason I didn't want to sand it to begin with was because I don't like dust. I thought that using the citrus gel would be a dust-free method to refinish the cabinet, and I could somehow do it with less mess, but it turned out to be just a big ordeal, and I was better off taking it out back and sanding it, which is what I ended up doing anyway. And now I have a sanded product that would have looked a lot better had I not had the gel on it, because now I have residue and bad sanding. I found that sanding was much more effective, and it would have taken me maybe 3 days instead of 7, because I ultimately ended up stripping it with chemicals and then sanding the whole thing and then having to use the chemicals again, and the combination made an icky finish. So I think if I had to do this project again, I just wouldn't. It was so much work, and I don't think I like refinishing furniture.